It's me, the D-O-double-G. Welcome to the Eden Army Podcast with your host tonight, Pete Robertucci.
Hey guys, welcome to the Eden Army Podcast. It is indeed Pete Robertucci. And, some of the best laid plans just kind of go by the wayside, right? We're forced to pivot on tonight's podcast because, quite frankly, there's a lot going on in Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee that the media is not telling you about. The current administration is hiding certain aspects of what's happening over there from us, and it's all strictly for political reasons. They're playing games with the lives of our countrymen, and for the longest time, I was going to be silent about it until I got a phone call from my good friend, and you guys all know him, Chris Weatherman, Mr. Angry American. He's gonna clue us in to a few things that are happening on the ground over there. So let's welcome Angry American.
What's up,
going on,
everybody?
brother?
Pete,
Hey.
good. Thanks for having me, brother. It's good to be here.
No problem. Anytime, man. Anytime. So what do
Sorry,
you
guys.
got going? Chris is good. Listen, Chris has been busy. He's juggling a lot of stuff right now, and he's doing his best to try to help the situation on the ground, the real situation on the ground.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give him this first segment to clue us in on what he knows, and this is not just hearsay. Okay, this is stuff that he actually knows is going on the ground. So, Chris, I'm going to give this to you, brother. Have at it.
Yeah, it's. I'm not going to dip into any of the various conspiracies that are surrounding this right now. We're not going to talk about those things. I just want to talk about what's actually occurring. And I'm working with a few different people down there. Our good buddy Bear Independent is there. The Special Forces Charitable Foundation is there. Grindstone Ministries. If you're mute that, or it's going to drive us all crazy.
I know you're busy, brother. Do your thing.
That's just texts that come in. So if you're looking for people to donate, those are good ones to look at. Special Forces Charitable Foundation is doing some really good work. They have helicopters in the Asheville airport. And Pete, what were you just telling me about that new NOTAM? What's that thing say?
Yeah, Mike White from he'll be on here in a little bit from CommsConnectUS says there was a NOTAM set from the Asheville airport, 40-mile radius. And that's a notice to airmen. That basically shuts down the entire area around Asheville Airport. And this is not by accident. This is not what they're trying to do is stop the average person from going and doing the job that they're not doing. They don't want news crews in there. And Chris, expand on that. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, 2 days, 3 days ago, I don't remember now. I think it's a bit of a blur. I ain't slept much in the last 3.5 days, but we arranged rescue for some people that needed to be gotten out of there. Somebody reached out to me, and I was able to round up the assets. We actually managed to get a privately owned Black Hawk to fly up to North Carolina to go rescue these people. They stopped at the Asheville airport to fuel before going on to do the rescue, and they were grounded by the FAA as soon as they arrived. We found out that happened. I reached out to some congressional friends and told them that. And then by the next day, the FAA allowed them to fly. So rescues are being conducted by private citizens. Now, there are some government assets in the area, but the private assets far outweigh the federal assets involved in this rescue. And they're grounding the aircraft and telling them they can't fly. Right. There's a group of people operating out of the Asheville airport. Very good guys that took it upon themselves to do something because things weren't being done. And now they're stuck with no ability to move all of the stuff they brought with them. We're also hearing cases of FEMA is coming in and shutting down operations that are being conducted by the locals. Even going so far as to take all the material that's there, including cash donations. And I've seen that in a couple of places on Twitter. I can't verify because I'm not on the ground there, but that's what they're being told. I was also just told by somebody on the ground there that the feds are coming out now and saying that the mud as a result of the flood is toxic and that they will not be allowed to rebuild in those areas until they have been remediated. So that sounds like they're going to declare this region a Superfund site, which would be the only way they could do that. So that's just my
and so
opinion.
even,
That's
yeah,
my
no,
opinion.
100%. And even prior to this shutdown of the notice to airman and stuff like that, they were threatening.
Oh yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong. They were threatening to arrest people that were
yeah,
going in there and handing out charitable donations and stuff like that, especially by air, right?
yeah, yep, yeah. There
Yeah.
was one instance of one pilot. He had a 16-year-old son. He was flying a Robertucci 44 helicopter. He flew up. He found an older couple that signaled from the top of a mountain. They needed help. They landed, and because the approach and everything was a little tricky, he asked his son to stay there while he only took the woman down, and he would come back and get the man and take him down, and he was going to do shuttle lifts because he was just a little concerned about the restrictions, the obstructions around it. So he loaded the woman on his helicopter. He flew down and landed down near Lake Lure Fire Department, and the Lake Lure Fire Chief, people probably heard this, came down and told him that if he flew back up there, he would be arrested. And he said, "Well, there's still a man up there." He goes, "My co-pilot's up there," and the fire chief reiterated that you will be arrested if you go back up there. And he's like, "Well, my co-pilot is my son." He's like, "I'm going to get him." And the fire chief again tried to arrest him, but he still flew up there and he had to land this time and then tell this old guy, "Look, I can't take you down there because they're going to arrest me if I come back." So he got his son and they flew out, and that was the end of that work. And they're doing it to others. They're telling volunteers that they cannot be volunteers. They cannot offer any assistance because they are not trained by the United Way. If you're not trained by the United Way in volunteer work, you are not allowed to volunteer. It's absurd that it is taking the private sector this much effort to step in. I saw a post yesterday. I wish I could remember the guy's name. But they were handling refuel ops for all the volunteer helicopters, providing the fuel for free, filling these helicopters up and letting them fly up there and bring people down and taking supplies. It's just it's so bad. It's hard to imagine that this is just the magnitude of the event, because the event is huge. But we know that FEMA is out of money. They don't have any more money for operations in this disaster, zero. And they offered the folks affected a $750 pittance. They give more to that to illegals that are crossing the southern border.
Yeah, and here's the problem. This is something that, and early on in this event, Chris, I was a little frustrated because constantly we talk about in the preparedness industry, we talk about, listen, the government's not coming to help you. You're your own first responder. You're the one responsible to help yourself. So I was getting a little bit frustrated that some of this stuff was going on because, listen, stuff that we've been preaching day in and day out every week on these podcasts. And now it's not always about EMPs and solar flares. I've done a lot of training with FEMA. I've done a lot of training with Homeland Security when it came to mass casualty incidents, when it came to big events such as this one. And I can tell you from a first responder standpoint, we are not prepared for an event like this. Our entire nation is not prepared. We cannot mobilize fast enough. It's not possible. So bear this in mind. It's not all about the post-apocalyptic EMP stuff. It's not about the solar flares. This is stuff that's happened. And you're seeing it right now. It's come to fruition. This is happening right now. And our countrymen are suffering for it because we have an inept administration. So
yes, we do.
I don't know
if this is, excuse me. I don't even know if this is inept or if this is more sinister than that. I mean, I hate to sound that way, but it's hard to believe that they're just this inept, especially because some of the stuff that I can't confirm. It's not inept. It's outright obfuscation. They're standing in the way. They're threatening to arrest people. There was just a video I watched on Twitter a minute ago of a woman talking to a police officer, and she was in Asheville, I believe it was, at her business, just taking the inventory out of the store, just trying to get, because the looting and the thievery that's going on is off the charts. And the police came up and told them if they did not leave, they would be arrested. But the streets are full of people walking around, but the owner's there to get their property. If they don't leave, they're going to go to jail.
Right. And here's the thing. I'm going to go down the rabbit hole even further, Chris. Something that we kind of mentioned to each other is a lot of these states are states that the inept Kamala Harris administration sent some of these illegal immigrants to. These are states that they wanted to swing over to the blue side, right?
Yep. Yep.
I'm going to say that local media, legacy media, is not telling us exactly what's going on with those illegal immigrants on the ground in these disaster areas right now because they're playing politics.
Well, I know for a fact of at least 14 illegals that have been arrested in two separate groups, one of 8, one of 6, that were caught looting houses. So
Yeah.
sometimes they're being caught, and it is happening. And the little bit of stuff that you're seeing on YouTube, the little bit of the even lesser that you're seeing on the legacy media stuff is the tip of the iceberg of what's actually wrong there. You're seeing the areas like Asheville, things like that's what everybody's talking about. But back in those mountains and in those hollers, there's far more substantial damage and lost lives. I mean, there's a lot of rumors that are going around. I'm not going to get it a bunch of them, but some of them are pretty horrifying if they're true. Nothing's confirmed yet, but we may be going up there. We might be on the ground up there here shortly for something. And you guys will know when we get there. If it happens, you'll know what we're doing. But the whole world's being lied to about this, but in particular, Americans are being lied to about what's going on there and what's being done. And from what I'm hearing, too, from people on the ground, it's making a major political shift in that state right now.
Yeah,
they wanted to turn it purple or they wanted to turn it blue. I don't think there'll be a Democrat left in the state of Western North Carolina when this is done.
I agree. Exactly. I agree 100%. And let's touch on something else, guys. What legacy media is telling us about this this body count, the amount of people that have been killed because of this hurricane. I can tell you unequivocally, I have heard this morning through legacy media that there were 200. It's far worse than 200 people. I guarantee that there are hundreds, maybe even thousands of people that are unaccounted for. And I can tell you unequivocally that they have filled more than 200 body bags already. And for whatever reason, legacy media will not tell you exactly what they did. Why? Because they're minimizing the suffering because FEMA's not able to get to them. This reliance we thought that we had on the government is going to come save us. They're going to come help us. We don't need to be prepared. It's all bullshit. We 100% what we've been preaching, we need to be prepared. We are our own first responder. Don't trust these idiots up in Washington to come save your ass because it's not going to happen. Okay?
Yeah, the only communication up there is ham radio. Like, that's it. That's it. I come out of I was over near Fayetteville, get some stuff, and then I shot across the state, and I went through Helen. Now, just the other side of there was hit real bad, so I didn't see that. But coming down the mountain, I watched the truck lose it and jackknife on the mountain road and shit go everywhere. And there was no cell coverage of any variety. And again, I had used the radio in my truck. I was able to hit another station. They reached out and we got EMS and everything, but no one was hurt. All 4 wheels on this truck were on fire when it stopped moving because their brakes heated so bad. And I hopped out, got my fire extinguisher, put the fires out, and then, like I said, used the radio to call for help. But that's another example of why we preach ham radio too to you guys, because that's 2 instances for me personally where I've used my radio in an emergency and a rescue style situation to summon help. It's the second time I've done it. And up there, I was monitoring the repeater that they were operating off of, and there's a lot of traffic on that 145 repeater. I don't remember the full frequency, but there's a lot of traffic on that.
The 2 meter and the 7
HF.
Yep. The 2 meter in particular is 70 centimeter right now. 70 centimeters always busy, right? But from now on, that's how these guys are talking to each other. And look, God bless Elon Musk for sending in the Starlink. I mean, it's only a limited amount, but something we should consider in our preps, right? I mean, all we need to do is power that damn thing up.
Why is it a limited amount? The federal government had given Starlink a grant for millions of dollars to provide Starlink to rural residents of Western North Carolina. And then they rescinded the grant right before the storm. So Elon did go on and he made anybody with a Starlink in that area free service. If you've got it and you can hook it up and you can see the sky, it's working for free. So that's 100%. Awesome. And again, it's the private sector that has to do these things. It's the private sector that's doing these things. It's the individual that is stepping up. Whereas any apparatus of the state we're seeing at the moment is doing nothing but hindering that. Now, I'm not talking about the individuals on the ground. You know, I don't mean those people, because obviously they're there and they want to help when they're trying. But the bureaucracy of it is being intentionally heightened to create hurdles and stumbling blocks and to prevent information coming out, number one, and help getting in. It's just absurd. Like I'm sitting here talking to somebody who's sitting on the Asheville airport right now with a metric ton of shit to take up into the mountains, and they can't fly helicopters now.
Yeah.
I mean,
it doesn't make any sense. Now, in one aspect, as a first responder, a retired first responder, I understand. Okay, you don't want an influx of people, but if that's the case, then you need to have your people on the ground, right? You need to be set up providing aid. You don't. Yeah. If that's not the case, then I don't give a shit if Billy Bob comes with his tractor and starts filling in a road because emergency people can't get up to the mountain to help his grandma. I don't give a shit about that. I want those people to come help. So I don't.
Yeah,
and you're right.
You need help. You know.
Yeah,
a drowning man doesn't care who saves him.
Yeah, it doesn't care if that person saving them has swift water rescue qualifications or not. No. Right. So this is the problem we're having. And I'm an optimist for the most part. But here's the deal. This is insidious. There's something going on that I don't quite understand. I can't. And I've been saying this for a long time, and I get my hands slapped all the time. My wife yells at me. This liberalism is a mental illness, and it's evil. It's evil. All right. I don't care what you say about it. I don't care. This is not just playing politics. You look at the policy for the last 3 years. This leftism, this liberalism is pure evil. Pure evil. I can't say it any other way. And now we're seeing it firsthand when our countrymen are dying on top of mountains because they're stopping people from going in and helping them. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, there was one example. Some of you may have seen it. I don't know, but there was one guy that used a signal mirror to get the attention of a helicopter, and that was how he was found. He had a tiny little clearing that they were able to set a helicopter down into, and that's how they found the guy. Was because he's using a damn signal mirror. So think about that when we talk about our preps, when we talk about prepared and doing things, and we always talk about a PACE plan, right? PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. That signal mirror should always be your emergency, in your communications plan, because it works, like it's legit. But these people, their entire, as most people's entire communications plan is, well, I got my cell phone.
Yeah,
that's my plan. And up there's a little town up there that's got this douchebag little mayor in it, who's complaining that there's no cell service, and he's really trashing the cell companies and things like that and giving them shit. What does he expect when the towers are not there? It's right. Not like they didn't turn it on or they ran out of diesel at the backup generator. No, the towers are gone. They're not there. So how can you expect to have cell coverage?
Yeah.
Those people are focusing on the wrong thing. Their attention is not in the right place where it needs to be. This isn't the time to be trying to make political hay. This is the time to be helping people.
I agree 100%. And it's not the time to play politics. Okay, listen, if you got caught with your pants down because you let a certain a segment of society across the border, they drained the resources of FEMA because that was a state of emergency. Those funds came from FEMA, and now you're telling me that you don't have enough money for the rest of hurricane season. Not only that, you don't have enough money for this. Okay, this is. Go ahead, Bub.
Let's look at just some of the decisions that were made. The day before that hurricane came, Tennessee, I can't remember their guard unit, but they're a mechanized unit, armor. The day before the hurricane hit, that Tennessee National Guard unit was shipped to Kuwait, 750 soldiers. Knowing that storm was coming right at Tennessee, you would have thought that somebody would have said, maybe, hey, let's bump this 2 weeks, or let's bump this a month. Let's keep these people here to be able to put them into the service of their state, what their task is. They're National fucking Guard, not National Kuwait fucking Guard.
Right.
But the Tennessee Guard is in goddamn Kuwait right now. And that should infuriate people, I mean, assets that, after the Haitian earthquake, the last one that happened, after that earthquake, the 82nd Airborne was wheels up within 10 hours, heading down there with aid. Mm-hmm. We're a week into this thing. And there's still people that have not even been contacted yet.
Not only have they not only been contacted yet, Chris, but the ones who brought the leads of the military branches that said, I want to go in and help, are being told, no, you're not going in and help. That's a state issue. Well, it's not a state issue, all right? It's an American issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's stop playing this let's stop playing this game. All right, there are American people suffering. I don't care how much money is going to Ukraine. Stop it. Okay, if we don't have enough money for FEMA for Americans, we don't need to be paying anything to any other country. Period. End.
Yeah.
I don't give a crap. Putin can take all of Ukraine. If we were American people suffering, that money needs to be put in the right place. My opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get a little fired up. I get a little fired up about this stuff, Chris. I apologize.
Yeah, I do too. It's insane and maddening, and then the lefties are all laughing at these people who are requesting federal help and be like, "Oh, well, you don't want communism. That's not communism, you stupid fucks." Sorry, this is your show. I forget Pete.
No, I got
but
it.
that's not communism or nothing. Requesting the assistance of the federal government in a disaster, and it's absurd for people to even think that way, because those guys in those helicopters, when they land on those mountaintops, they don't ask them if they're a Republican or a Democrat before they let them off.
No.
They're flying them out of there. Everybody. There's none of this right now. Right now, Western North Carolina is populated with Americans. That's what's
exactly.
That's who needs help.
Yeah, exactly.
That's who's being denied help, and in some cases, very actively help being prevented from getting to them. Like there's no TAM. That is an active way for them to prevent help from getting out. They just grounded several helicopters in Nashville that now can't fly. Like they can't even leave. They can't leave and go to a different airport and operate out of there now because
they're grounded. They can't even get in the air. So I don't know if you guys heard that earlier in the show, but there's been a notice to airmen coming out of the Asheville airport, 80 miles, basically 40 miles. So if you're operating out of the Asheville airport, you're not able to take off. And that was a directive from the FAA. Okay, so they're actively, like Chris said, actively thwarting people, stopping people from saving other people. And if that's not evil, I don't know what is. I don't have any clue what is. So I don't know. And guys, I apologize. Our internet, all of our internets are messed up.
Yeah,
tonight,
mine's jacked up tonight too. So there are, the military did not respond. Obviously, that has to be requested and stuff. But I will tell you that there is a great number of them up there. I'm talking with one here right now that we're trying to help. We helped him last night to get in, and now that he's just telling me about the way that they're being screwed with on the ground, the way that all the stuff they're putting in front of them to prevent them from being able to give out aid. And I have one report, and I have no way to confirm this yet because I only heard it once, but I was told that someone had gotten a text message in the Chimney Rock area from officials saying, do not try to assist others. Do not try to bring in supplies. Like it was from FEMA. Do not assist others. So I can't confirm that's true, but they read the whole text message to me and it sounded like some crap that they would have put in there. But it's just another example of what they're doing to stay in folks' way.
And Patrick says here in Kick Chat, he says, and that's part of that NOTAM. That NOTAM applies to some of the drones in the area. And why? You say why? Why would they want to do that? Well, one of two reasons there, Patrick. They don't want the everyday person to know exactly what's going on the ground over there. And the other thing is they're
only letting media into certain places.
Sure, of
the media
course.
is only seeing a little piece of this thing. We're working on something that might change that. I'm trying to right now. I'm in the middle of a thing at the moment that we might be able to change that. We might be able to actually get a little bit of attention to this in a much larger way. I did hear today that Glenn Beck was up there somewhere. So obviously he's going to be talking about this soon. Good on Glenn. At least somebody's going up there to ask some questions,
Sure.
And to see for themselves. And what you're hearing is everybody, even on the YouTube videos and stuff, they're talking about the way that they're being impeded in offering assistance and help and support.
Sure.
Just doing nothing but putting hurdles in their way every time.
Yeah. My friend Javi, he lives in Tennessee. He made the trip over to North Carolina to basically self-rescue his daughter, who hadn't received any help. They were, skimming on food and water and stuff like that. And he made a trip from the hollers in Tennessee to North Carolina just because nobody was coming. No one's coming to help. They didn't have water. They didn't have food. Kids running around the street. They got no snacks. They got nothing. And this poor guy has to load up his truck and head over to North Carolina to feed an apartment complex because there's no help from the federal government. And they say a week. They say, look, it's been a week since the incident. It's been a week, and there's no help. Well, how long, Chris? How long could you last without water, clean water? Yeah, so you're
a couple 3 days, and you're gonna be dying.
Exactly. Yeah. So there are people clearly that could be dehydrated right now, could be drinking water they shouldn't be drinking. So that's going to have systemic effects on everybody. It baffles my mind. It really, let me hold on. Let me back up. Russ is giving me the calm down signal. All right.
Oh, I know. I'm with you, brother. Trust me. It's infuriating and maddening. And just to watch and to see so many people be okay with it too is the other thing. And I like to remind folks, this moment does present an opportunity to show what this administration is really like, for people to really get a grip of what they think of Americans, what's happening in North Carolina and Tennessee, and even Virginia, Southern Virginia, the very western corner of Virginia, I got hit too. The treatment that those people are receiving is what this administration thinks of Americans.
Yeah.
So just let that sink in. I mean,
and who they're putting in front of the American people. Who are they putting in front? This is the key right here. And all just to play politics, just to saturate, just to get more congressional seats. All right. Because that's what this is all about, because that goes by census. All right. And census doesn't matter if you're illegal or not, or illegal. Right. So it's all politics. Yeah. And this is what we've been trying to beat through everyone's head. But there are those leftists over there, and they're mentally ill. They couldn't see a brick wall if they were running at it at 100 miles an hour. And they're still going to vote for this 2-bit, and I won't say it anymore. But, that's what I got. That's all I got to say about that.
It's a jacked up mess, man. I mean, I'm
doing what I can. Let's use this as an opportunity to educate these people that that look, it's not all about conspiracies. It's not all about, it's not all about EMPs, not solar flares. It's not, it's about natural events that are going to be taking place. This thing hits, there are people suffering. And what does Joe Biden say? Oh, climate change. See, I told you. F you. F you. Yep. All right. There are people suffering. And then he's asked not to come to the area because they're going to initially shut down the no-fly zone and hinder any operations they happen to have. And they still, because of politics, they fly into the area just to show their faces. It's ridiculous to me. It's ludicrous. I can't even explain it.
It's disgusting is the feeling that I get. Again, everybody should be paying attention. If you're looking for places to try to help, or you want to donate or things like that, like earlier I gave out the, Bear Independence up there with Grindstone Ministries. I've been working with Bear on some stuff, trying to get him some help, and he's helping me too. Like, I'm sending stuff to his talk up there. When I get message from somebody, hey, I got family here that's stuck or needs this or needs that, I'm in touch with his talk that he set up, and I send that info to them, and then they disseminate it from there. I've made aviation assets available to him through other outfits that are down there working. Like I said, the Special Forces Charitable Foundation is there working, doing great work. They're good to support. Also, Samaritan's Purse is down there. Donate to them, not the Red Cross. And God's Pit Crew is another fantastic organization that's down there doing good work right now. And do not donate to the Red Cross. Do not give them your money, because it will not go there.
I agree with that 100%. I agree with that. Guys, if you have any questions, just a reminder, if you do have any questions for any of us, go ahead and make sure you highlight it in that, and we'll make sure we get it to Chris. Chris has been up for 3 or 4 days straight. He's doing God's work, and he's trying to get people help. You can see it right now. He's on his phone constantly because he's trying to navigate what's going on. So by all means, let's not keep him all night If you have any questions, pop it in the chat in that format, and we will get it to him. But I will say, much like when we left our citizens behind in Afghanistan, there is a group of individuals that went out and got our citizens out. Okay. Now, I'm not saying this is happening, but there are a group of patriotic people that are ex-military and current military that are doing the right thing over there, but it's not enough. It's not enough. There are small
I'll agree. I'll tell you for a fact. Yes, there are both sides of active and retired, actively involved right now. I'm not going to say who any of them are, but because they were told they couldn't go, and some went anyway. But they're doing it on their own. They're not using any DoD assets. They're down there of their own volition. And we're assisting them. So.
Yeah, and there are certain groups of there are other groups that are actually a little more well equipped. But the problem is, like you said, Chris, they're also getting hurdles put in front of them constantly. So these are guys that are doing the work. They are trying. God bless them. But there's not enough of them. There's just simply not enough. There's not enough. So
sorry, y'all. I'm gonna have to go. I gotta make a phone call to somebody that they're finally, because they've been on a helicopter for the last couple of hours. I've been trying to get in touch with them. Now they just told me they just landed, and I need to make a phone call. So.
Chris, we thank you for being here. Pat, just before you leave, Patrick 7 just wants you to know how proud he is of you, that you're doing your
Patrick's
stuff.
Good dude. He's good people, man.
Yeah,
I'm not doing shit. All right, I'm not on the ground. I'm not down there helping those people. I'm just doing the little bit of stuff I can do. I'm a guy that knows a guy. You know what I mean? So, but
you're doing administrative stuff that our government should be friggin' doing. And it doesn't take a lot. It just takes someone who cares about it. So, Chris, listen, we appreciate you, brother. On the flip side, Russ, we're going to go ahead and let Chris go. Let him take care of business. Get some sleep, man. I'll see you soon.
Hey, Jim,
I'm in town.
Tell Jim I said, hey, when he comes in. And
okay.
Because, man, he helped me out the other day. We were communicating, working on some stuff together, too. So, and
perfect.
Jim, I might be in touch with you on something else in the very near future. So, appreciate you, Pete, buddy. I will talk to you later, too, about the thing. And y'all be good. Stay safe. And,
love you, man. Be safe, brother.
Thank you, bro.
Let's roll that first commercial. And on the flip, no problem. On the flip side, we're going to bring in Mr. J.M. White and Nick Meacher. We're going to talk about some of their response. So let's go ahead and pop that one, Russ, if you would. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you, brother.
Sometimes it's the primitive way of life as a means of survival. You may find yourself having to go back to an old path that maybe you never knew. Do you have what it takes when the grid goes down? It's not always about the tactical and the new age. Sometimes you got to go way back. You got to prepare yourself for the fallout. Are you going to be there at the fallout, Harmony, North Carolina, October 18th through the 20th with Mountain Readiness? Come and join us. Of course, you'll get a nice cup of coffee from McNutter Butter Coffee. Come and join us this year, October 18th through the 20th, Harmony, North Carolina, for the fallout. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can do. Be the difference and be prepared.
All right. All right. Let's get this back here. Sorry. It's a new platform for us, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with me. Perfect. All right, let's bring in our initial guest tonight, Mr. White, CommsConnectUS. Russ, we know him. He's always working in the background doing his thing. And then Nick Meacher with Fortune Favors the Prepared. Did I get that right? Perfect. So, guys, sorry. I know we were going to have you on right away, but, Chris wanted to get that off his chest, and there's a lot of stuff going on. So we appreciate you staying in the background for a little bit. And, guys, just a reminder, everybody's internet is screwed up. I'm sorry, but we're going to work around it. So, Mr. White, good to see you, young man. I appreciate you being here tonight. Can you tell us, first of all, tell us about CommsConnectUS.
Hey, Tooch. Good to see you again. Thanks for the invite. CommsConnectUS is an organization comprised of people just like you and me. You're regular people. we have a total of about 257,000 as of this last week. And that constitutes a pool of people that when someone calls us, reaches out to us in a time of need, during disasters, things like that, we could reach out to that pool of 250,000 people, 57,000 people, and say, hey, who's in this area and who's willing to help? And invariably, 98% of the time when we ask, someone steps forward and says, hey, I'm right down the road. I can do it. In a nutshell, that's what CommsConnect is.
Perfect. And let me tell you guys, I've utilized this in the past. I utilized it on my last trip. And, I called up them guys. I sent them a private message. Hey, man, how's I-10 looking? And he goes, Tooch, stop being a knucklehead. Get signed up, and so I can track you, so I can get you going into the algorithm. I can follow you. So he basically babysat me from the Northwoods Writing Shack all the way down until, and I'm not exaggerating, until I hit my bedroom. Okay, he could tell with it where, just by the programs and stuff that he uses, he was able to track me within 3 foot of where I was at all times. Okay, so
he also said that you probably need to go see a doctor because of all the bathroom trips.
He did, so. Yeah, he did. He did say that. So that's CommsConnectUS. So we got some questions for you also. So just hang tight. But let's get Nick Meacher here. Nick, good to have you, brother. Tell us about your organization, real briefly, about what you do and some of the services you provide.
Well, it's not really an organization. It's just a website that I put together because of the same questions popping up all the time. And I got tired of writing the same responses. So I had written some articles before. I took those and I wrote more stuff and put them up on the website. And I keep building it as time allows. So there's a lot of information there. The other two things I put together, one, actually my daughter's suggestion, I created a workbook. So your family plan, it's fill in the blanks. It's not how to, insofar as here's a book, tells you how to do it. It gives you all the blank forms. And then the other one is an assessment. What are you really at risk from? And that does take time. I'll tell you right now, it takes time. But when you've done it, you're prepping for what you truly need to be worried about. So there is a process to it, but as opposed to everybody going, oh, I'm prepping for the SHTF. What is that? You don't,
Right. And we could see just from this event, that varies, right? Just because we may think we read these post-apocalyptic books and we say, okay, we're going to have a power outage because of an EMP or this. It might not be that way. It might be regional, like we're seeing right now. These people are going through a shit hit the fan scenario right now. Right now, this is happening. So we'll get back to some questions and with you, Nick. But I want to talk to Mr. White again. But tell us what's CommsConnectUS did during this event and what they may be still continuing to do. Just put me through those steps. What benefit was it to have you guys on board and get the jump on this event?
I'll be honest with you, Tooch. This was an operation unlike any of the others we've worked on since our existence over the last 8 years now, almost. This one was actually much quieter and was very bizarre, and I think there are some reasons for that. We actually only touched about 16 missions this whole operation, and normally we do 10 times that at least. I think because this was such a large scale of devastation, I think it was the topography of a lot of it, especially up in the mountains. You had all the valleys inundated with flooding and mudslides and things like that. And up on the tops of the mountains, you had people trapped and isolated. Normally what we'll do, let's say a hurricane hits New Orleans, Lake Charles area. We'll go out to the outer edges of that disaster and we'll pull people in to help. That couldn't have been the case in this. it was so large spread and just so devastating. It took out all of those responders also that we used. The tickets that we did work, wellness checks, medical wellness checks, evacuations, rescues, were actually very, very limited. And they were limited to the Spruce Pine area, Blowing Rock area, Asheville, Alexander, Black Mountain, as Chris had mentioned, and mainly around Green Mountain, which was very odd for us to be so limited. So this was a very, very bizarre disaster work.
Now, do you attribute that to just because it came in such a way that nobody really expected it, that the communications completely went down? They weren't able to contact you guys? Or what do you attribute that? Because you would think that you would have had hundreds of missions, right? So what do you attribute that lack of missions?
Yeah, normally we do. I mean, normally we are absolutely, it's like drinking from a 2.5-inch fire hose. This was different. And I think it was different because even those people who normally ask us to respond, they lost everything. It was just so widespread that, we didn't get our tickets until pretty late, actually. I think everybody was stunned. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was just so devastating over such a large area.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Now, with that being said, and the failure to act, the failure to realize that this is the event, this is the life-changing event, right? Nick Meacher, what in a situation like this, what are some of the ways that people can still get a hold of their family in an event like this?
Well,
Power's down. Go ahead.
Yeah, it all comes down to planning beforehand. It's no good waiting until, the stuff's hitting the circulating fan. You've got to think this through beforehand. You've got to plan with your family. Some of it simple, having, ideally waterproof paper with a list of phone numbers on, because most folks don't remember phone numbers anymore. If your phone's dead and somebody says, here, you can use my phone, but if you don't know a phone number, it's not going to do you a lot of good. We talk the PACE plan, right? And we talk about that a lot. So primary, alternate, contingent, and emergency. So basically 4 layers of redundancy. Now, that's going to vary for most people, but most people, their primary means these days is a cell phone. You need to then think, well, okay, my cell phone's on provider A. Well, as we've seen the last couple of days, provider A and provider B have both had some widespread outages just in the last couple of days. So if your provider's down, what's your alternate? There are some devices you can use, providing the cell tower is still up, that'll take a SIM card that'll work on all 3 networks. So now, all 3 major networks. So now you have an alternate means. If that doesn't work, and that's radio over LTE, radio over cell phone. It's like Zello, but you have 3 providers you can use on. So they'll still work if the cell towers are up. And that's handy for folks that you haven't got your ham license yet, or if you're, further away and don't have the means to connect with them. Ham radio, everybody goes, oh, ham radio, that's the solution. Well, again, you have to look at what applies to you. And a handheld radio is only going to get you so far without some kind of infrastructure like repeaters. If they're still working, and the advantage there could be if it's localized outage to you, you can reach a repeater that's 20 or 30 miles away that might be intact, that you can then use to get a message to somebody. But in this case, I saw a graphic that compared this hurricane to Katrina, and this one was about twice the size in as far as its width and area of impact. Well, if it's ripped everything out of the ground, power, repeaters, etc., then you've got to look at other means that are non-terrestrial. Russ, you had something?
Yeah.
Russ, go ahead.
Yeah, Nick, without getting too deep into the weeds on it, you give out sit reps every day when the situation dictates. Can you give us kind of the nutshell version on what you do and kind of how you get your information? We just so people understand that, you know, you're just not someone that posts stuff just willy-nilly. Your stuff that you come out with, as I have seen personally, and you and I've known each other for several years, this is stuff that's been vetted, you know. So just if you can kind of elaborate on that for a few seconds, and that way these folks can understand that a lot of the information that you're giving is actually from vetted sources.
Yeah, so I'm fortunate I have access to a tool that sources information from pretty much every source you can think of. Social media, news media, local news media, all kinds of stuff. They vet it. There's a whole team of analysts that vet that and then provide that information. I don't post everything I see, and trust me, there's a lot that I see. I only post stuff that, you know, could have an impact. And one of the things that I created a few years ago, and it started off as a joke, but I call it Preparedness Conditions, or PrepCon. And basically, it started as a joke with some friends we were talking about defense conditions and the levels, et cetera. And they were like, well, do you have something for preparedness? And I said, well, yeah, sort of. And so I actually formalized it. And it's based on triggers. And so we'll take the hurricane, right? So in the minute that became a tropical depression and a tropical storm, the track was up from the National Hurricane Center. Even before that, you can track it as it's a depression. And so being aware of that 5 days ahead of time allows you to prepare somewhat. If you know what the track is, you can then make informed decisions as to whether or not you're staying or you're leaving. And as things get closer, you know, you can be a step ahead of other folks that now decide at the last minute to try and evacuate. And depending on where you live, that track of Helena was problematic when you saw it was going north. Now, and as intense and as wide as it was. And so, you know, the whole point is, you know, being situationally aware, having discussed and planned out, and actually my workbook, the Family Emergency Plan workbook, has the written version of it in there, not there's actually a map of it, but you can't read it if it's on regular paper. You got to, you know, poster size, I print it on. And having those triggers beforehand and having discussed them when you create your plan and go, you know what, if XYZ happens, we are doing this, whether it's bug it in, stay it out, or, you know, 5 days out, 6 days out, we're going to get some extra water in and top up some things, top up the fuel, things like that. Mm-hmm. That's part of it. It takes time and planning. It's not, it's not something you can do. You've got to think this out. It's the same with the communications plan. You've got to look at your options, what is going to work for you and what you can afford to do.
Yeah, and you're right. And a lot of this, guys, also is recognizing that this is a real event, right? And this is when you get onto Facebook and you just hear all the chatter, right? And a lot of it's BS. But guys like Nick, guys like Mike White with CommsConnect, they get real information. They get information from real sources, and that's why they're my go-to when it comes to information and stuff like that. Welcome back, young man. Quick question for you. Are you hearing, now we hear a lot about what's going on in the news, about the damage and stuff like that. We understand that this is a wide swath of devastation. Is there anything we're not hearing that you're hearing as far as the devastation that's going on or things like that? What are we missing that we're not getting from legacy news?
My understanding is that the actual body count is going to be 10 times what they're saying, what they're publicly saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Also, even the information they gave us this morning, at 200 bodies, I've already know they filled 500 body bags. I already know this. Okay, so I don't know why they want to lower that number, I think, and I don't know, I'm not even going to speculate other than it's just insidious. But yeah, I would agree 100% with that. Nick, you talked about the PACE plan, okay, and how important that is, primary, alternate, contingent, and emergency. But that doesn't just apply to communications, right? That could apply to other things as far as just about everything in preparedness, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, you can apply that across the board to any aspect, like your food, for example. Your primary food is going to be day-to-day stuff, right? You can stock up on it and what your kids like, etc. That's your primary food. Your contingent might be that the box of noodles that's been sat in the back of the cupboard for whatever, and it's got an expiration date on it, and it's like, you know what, it's canned goods. And I've just actually recently had this discussion with my daughter. She's like, well, some of those cans are out of date. Well, unless the can is blistered, it's good. Open it up, give it a sniff test. If there's no green fuzzies on it, it's probably, and the can's not blistered, it's probably going to be okay. And so, that might be your contingent supply. Your emergency plus supply is going to be your freeze-dried stuff or your long-term food preps. And not everybody can get there. It could be MREs somewhere in your line of order of supplies could be MREs. And to me, they're further up the top. They're the initial thing because they're ready made. They're high calorie for when stuff's really going on and you don't have time to sit down and cook stuff. That's where they would be. So it's having a variety of things and go, okay, I've got a couple of cases of MREs. I got a couple of boxes of your favorite freeze-dried, ready to go backpacking type stuff. And then I've got 5-gallon buckets of stuff.
Sure. Absolutely. So it doesn't, like we said, it doesn't just apply to communications. Look, communications is way over my pay grade. I have a hard time. That's why I have Nick as a friend, because he can kind of let me vent to him, and he can treat me like a 5-year-old and say, okay, look, knucklehead, you need this. Nick, another quick question. I'm seeing a lot about these two-way radios that they say you can talk all over the country with them. Tell me what the difference is that compared to, and you touched on it a little bit, that compared to something like Zello or something like that. Just give me a heads up on that. We've all seen the advertisements on Facebook. Talk anywhere in the country.
Right. So what you're talking about is this particular brand, and I'm not going to quite a disclaimer. I absolutely hate their advertising, but it's marketing. Yeah. Sure. I've had some serious discussions with them, both in the capacity of me and then also in the capacity of what I do at work, because my work job is now technology and innovation. So I've had some quite a conversation with them wearing my other hat. And so I did a deep dive into them and all those devices. I've got a couple others sitting around here that I bought that you can set up yourself. So this is what I talked about in that this is radio over cellular. You have to understand that it will only work if you have a cellular signal. Now, the advantage with this particular model brand is that the SIM card that's in it is programmed to work on Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, at least. There's space for 2 SIM cards. I think you can see that, yeah. So, you can add another one. I also have FirstNet. And so I've actually tried it. I pulled it out of my MiFi, put it in here, pulled their SIM card out, and it still works. So that gives me other options. Again, you have to understand the limitations. It allows you to add individuals. It allows you to create a group just like you can on Zello. I've been in a couple of instances where I did not have cell signal on my phone, yet I still had signal on this, which means it connected to something else other than, AT&T or FirstNet. So that's one layer. But again, it doesn't. And in most situations, other than this type of scenario, it's probably going to work for you. tornado ripped up some towers, you're going to have other towers in the area. The cell providers most of the cell towers are not owned by the actual cellular company. There's another vendor, and it's very unusual to find Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile all on the same cell tower. So if they're having network issues like Verizon and AT&T have both had in the recent days, I got T-Mobile. If a tower is down because it lost power, there's other towers typically within the same range of these radios work. The difference between this and Stella, like I said, it's got 3 networks in it. I priced it so.
Mm-hmm. So it goes ahead and follows that PACE plan all by itself, basically. So that's good information, because I was skeptical about those, Nick, at the very beginning. But the way you explain that makes great sense to me. So that's good to know.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll add to that is I priced those SIM cards to try and get one. They charge $50 a year after the first year. I could not find anything as cheap to have 3 networks. The closest I could find was almost 3 times as much. So you don't have to program it. It's out of the box. Turn it on. Give it a minute or so to connect. So, from that perspective, from somebody that's not technically minded, I think it's an option. You just have to understand the limitations.
Is there a monthly fee involved with that, or is it just a one-time buy?
You buy them, and the first year you got service, and after that year's up, you get the option. Hey, you want to renew? It's $50 for the year per radio.
Yeah, so that's a bargain.
Which you can't beat.
Yeah, no,
that's a good deal.
That's a bargain. That is a bargain. And guys, I can't stress enough that we have the ability right now in this great age of electronics and innovation to, if you're able to afford these small Starlink satellite dishes, you can turn that service on and off. Okay, you don't have to pay the $150 every month. But let's talk about this. So a hurricane's coming in 2 weeks. Then you turn it on. Okay, you hide it away till after the hurricane goes away. You can talk on your phones now, right? As long as you have some way to power this thing over voice over IP. There you go. You don't have to worry about it. Now, look, I get it. Yeah. Not everyone can afford that. I get it. What do you got, Russ?
And the new Starlink Mini is their newest little thing. They will run off of an inverter, just like the inverter that I use to run my CPAP machine that runs off of a Milwaukee M18 battery. These inverters will power the Starlink Mini. Now, guys, there's a majority of us out here, whether you're a red and white guy, black and yellow guy, a blue guy, or that you have a battery operated tool, look and see if they have the inverter. You plug it in, and I ought to have to go get one. You plug it in, you can power up your cell phones, you can charge your cell phones. It will run a CPAP machine if you're old and fat like me and need one. We used it when we lost power, just during Helene. And it will power the Starlink Mini. Go on Facebook. There's a bunch of groups on Starlink. Look, these guys are mounting them in their cars, for goodness sakes, and running them mobile. And you had to pay for your subscription. But like Pete just said, if you're not going to be using it, cancel the subscription. And all you got to do is be able to get online or call in and say, turn it back on. And if you know and you're paying attention, do it a couple of weeks prior. The subscription lasts 30 days. And then you can put it on an auto pay. And that way, if we think the event's going to last longer than just your 30 days, at least you're covered until the event is over. Pretty simple.
Yeah, no, I would agree. That's just the way to go. And the great part about this is, as long as you have an internet connection, your cell phone is going to be working, and you can contact these guys at CommsConnectUS, and at least at a very minimum, if you don't need help, you're able to get a hold of somebody so they're not worried about you, right? So your family knows that you're good to go, that you're happy. Yeah. Battle Gnome says you can run a Starlink Mini from a USB-C on a cigarette lighter. wall transform. I mean, there's so many options here, but I get it, guys. I get it. They're expensive. But if you're a part of a mutual assistance group and you don't have one of these, you're not doing your members, you're doing them a disservice if you don't have something like this. Plain and simple. And I'm not wrong, right, Mr. White? They could contact you as long as they have internet connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you could get a hold of CommsConnectUS. You can get the word out if you're in any kind of trouble. Look, all you're going to have to do is get a hold of them one time, and I will promise you they will do everything in their power to get to you or find somebody that will get to you. So that's the kind of service that this guy provides. So, Nick, I'm gonna bring you in real quick. You want to add anything to that, Mike?
Yeah, real quick. One thing that I think Nick has alluded to, and I know Chris alluded to, is we don't operate. None of us operate in a vacuum. During these operations, we share information.
Absolutely.
We share needs. I mean, it's not unusual at all for me to reach out to Nick or to Chris or them to reach out to me. Or none of us operate in a vacuum. This is kind of an all state, and we help each other.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%.
100%.
Nick, I'm gonna say something now that you're not gonna like. I apologize ahead of time, but because Nick's a ham guy, he puts the tests on at Mountain Readiness for free. He does all kinds of stuff. He's got the ham notebook. He is a ham guy. But Nick, let me ask you this: what's to stop the average person from getting a ham radio, listening to the weekly nets, becoming familiar with it, and then during a state of emergency, at least knowing how to operate the damn thing without a license?
Well, I think you answered the question in the last part of your sentence, is knowing how to operate.
Right.
And so I have seen, I couldn't even tell you how many people go, oh, I've got, and I'll name it because everybody bought them Baofeng, and I've got them in a EMP proof box, case, whatever. Mm-hmm. And when the proverbial hits the fan, I'm just going to take it out and use it. And I can tell you from pretty much everybody I know in the last, I don't know, 10 years that 8 years that I've been running ham testing, and I started it to help people from the preparedness perspective. Most people cannot take one of them out of the box and set it up. So part of the whole thing is, in why we encourage people to get their license, is that you really need to know how to use it. Now, a handheld radio, this isn't about Baofeng, I forgot to grab one. A handheld radio, it takes some setup, but I'm not going to reach 1,000 miles. I am not going to reach 100 miles without some infrastructure. If I'm talking one of these to another, I'm going to get maybe 5 miles, ideal conditions, maybe a little bit more. I mean, I've heard people say they get 50 miles. Well, sure, if you're standing on, the top of your stool and you got an antenna and the wind's blowing in the right direction, absolute ideal conditions. So they're short range. If we're looking at not using infrastructure, they're short range. If you want something that's going to reach out from your devastated community, and you've got to reach 50, 100, 150 miles or more, you're really talking having HF shortwave radio. That takes more skill to use. Plus, you're going to end up spending a couple of $1,000s. Let's not sugarcoat it. It's not a Baofeng radio. Plus, you have to learn how to set up an antenna. In a situation like this, you're going to have to go back out and set up a new antenna after the storm's gone through. So that's the thing. And I've seen people go, well, in an emergency. Yeah, in a true emergency, when you don't have any other means, nobody's going to get on your case. Well, I say that. There are some, I'll say, old school hams that get really upset about
sad
that.
hams. Why you hating on sad hams, man?
Will had a good question. He goes, what about CB radios? Let's talk about that.
So CB, the frequencies for CB are actually what we call the 11 meter band. So there's a ham 10 meter band, and then there's a ham 11. There's a CB is in the 11 meter band, 26, 27 megahertz. So it acts mostly like HF. It's not designed as line of sight, and that's why, especially at night, you can hear that signal a long way away. The problem is that there's so many people on it. It's also close to some broadcast stations, especially down south of the border. So you do get a lot of interference on it. And if you've ever listened to CB, it's not like you can get on there and have a serious, hey, I need you to get in touch with X, or I need you to pass this message. Ham radio operators do that as a hobby. They practice passing messages by various means, including email over radio, Morse code. It's still people doing it. There's so many different things that you can do with it. So it is probably a last ditch, thing. You do need to get the second highest level license up, what we call a general class license, but a lot of it then becomes practice and learning what frequencies are going to work best under what conditions. It's not like I can throw it, pull it out of the box, pick a frequency and go at it. So there is a learning curve, but getting your technician license, your first one, that's the first step, and at least understand that. And some of the things that we have available, like every Monday night, we do a net. Now we're using digital and we're using a device that connects to the internet. But the whole point of that is to get comfortable using the radio, talking on the radio, etc. We are going to actually do the same thing with these rapid radios. We're going to set a group up on that, so you don't have to have a ham license. And we're going to start doing nets on that to help you as well. My website does have a page that lists study resources. And what I tell people is go look. I explain how each different resource is laid out, whether it's a book, a video, whether it's a cheat sheet, and there's a guy that has free ones for the technician test, whether it's flashcards, whether it's practice tests, whatever works for you, because I'm not going to say that's the best way to do it, because everybody learns differently. Once you get started, get on that, practice, get more comfortable. Then you got to talk your significant other into letting you spend some money.
Good luck with that.
Roy Dorn is the perfect example of that. Roy's over here, was over on Facebook a little while ago. He took his technician license the same time I did. He did a whole lot quicker, got it a whole lot quicker than I did. And I'm going to leave it at that. But he did that at Fallout, and then turned around in May and he got his general. I believe he is actually studying for his amateur extra, but he has a full-blown ham shack going up in his house. He's got several antennas. He went to his first ham rodeo, or whatever they're called, the ham day, and is having a boy. And yes, Julie, Roy got her. She got Julie's permission. And well, the test is not hard. It really isn't. But you do have to put in some study time. That was my downfall.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal with the test, guys. Before you freak out and think you need to know all this theory and stuff. Yeah, it's great to know all that stuff. The test bank is online. It's online. All the questions with all the answers. So I'll be honest, when I got my tech license, I knew every question, every answer. I didn't even have to read it. I saw the ABC and I knew exactly which one it was.
Well, and what I tell people is getting your technician license is the license to learn. That's when you start learning, is once you've got your license and you start figuring out, hey, I've got these repeaters near me and this is how I program the radio, etc. Now, I won't say it's an intermediate step. There's a step you can take before that. And there's a license called General Mobile Radio Service. We call it GMRS, which it's still a license, but you don't have to take a test. One license covers everybody in your household. And what we're seeing is a lot of areas where folks have put up a repeater, GMRS repeater. And so if you've got a group and you're within, 20 miles of each other, and you've got space, and you got some money to put a repeater up, you can go ahead and do that. And that's an intermediate step. It gives you some coverage. You get to play with the radio. The Baofangs will work on it. And that, so intermediately you have another option. One of the other options, and there's been a lot of chat about this too, are these type of devices. This is the Garmin InReach Mini. So there's a number of different Garmin devices. This is their larger one. It's called the Montana 700. It's got the same thing. This nice big screen. But I got this when I was in Colorado because when I first moved there, the minute I went outside of the city limits, there was no cell coverage. And so this will sync with your phone with an app. You can send text messages through it to the satellite network. It does have a little SOS feature. You can pre-program it that if you hit that, it will notify their center and 2 or 3 people that you've pre-programmed in it. It sends your location. You could, like I said, text messaging. So, this could be depending on your budget. This could be that last ditch thing that you have that is going to give you some options. Like, for example, up in Western North Carolina right now, if you've got line of sight and can get outside with this, it's going to give you the ability to send a text message. So, that could be another option. This is their small one. I want to say it runs around $300, and like for $20 a month, you can send. Well, they just changed the plan, and it used to be I got 10 free texts. I think they just upped it to like 140. So that's an option. And the same thing, you can turn it on and off, just like with Starlink. If you're not going to use it, don't plan. If something's coming, you can just go back on and turn it on. So again, it's another option depending on where you are and what you think you want to be ready for.
Yeah, all part of that PACE plan, right? All part of it. So there are many options out there, guys. We need to utilize them the best of our ability. Russ, what do you got, brother?
Well, it was brought up earlier in chat, and guys, and I don't know if T is still out here, but he did post a couple of weeks ago, a couple of days ago, right after the hurricane. Fallout, guys, is still a go. He has invited the vendors and other folks from Prepper Camp, which got washed out due to Hurricane Helene, and to come. So you may see spaces of some vendors that you've never seen before. You may see people that you've never met before. But all that does is build our community. We're trying to help the ones that were affected in any way that they were affected. So I just wanted to make sure we got that out before it slipped this old brain of mine.
Russ, what is this fallout you're talking about? What is that?
Well, hold on. I got you.
Thank you. There you go. Fallout October 18th through the 20th. And we will be doing a defensive pistol class after that. And we still have a few spots open. Not really. We're booked, but I don't care. All right. I want you to get prepared. So that's going to happen. Fallout is definitely a go. So we appreciate T for making that happen, especially what he's doing with the other
Mike, you are more than welcome to come over, hang out with us, get your information out to these folks. I'll take the hit on it, and I'll pay for your entry fee if T says otherwise. But it's an awesome thing, man. We got a great bunch of folks that come there. You'll get to meet all these crazy people over here in Kick Chat, which I apologize for them now. But it's a really great time. This will be my 4th event there. I was at the inaugural. I look forward to it. We do one in May and we do one in October, and it's definitely just a great event. Harmony, North Carolina. It's just above Statesville, just right above Charlotte.
Yeah,
So,
we've attended a couple of them up in Waynesville and a couple other places. It's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of good people.
Good.
yeah. So you've been to
Guys.
Heritage Life Skills.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, he was at Heritage. But yeah, that let me tell you, that mountain readiness event is getting big, and T is doing a great job over there doing that. Guys, listen, we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes, and I know everyone's busy. Russ, let's do this. Let's go ahead and do last words with Nick and Mike, and then let's kill the streams for Facebook and YouTube. And the guys say, "What does that mean? What do you mean you're going to kill the streams? Are you getting off?" No, we're not getting off. What we're going to end up doing is me and Russ are going to hang out over at kick.com. All right, because that's less restrictive. All right, so we can open up a little more, and we can say some things that we can't say on the social media, socialist social media platforms. Right, we can open up a little bit, and you can see what we're really like. So.
And we didn't have one last week, and we're kind of jonesing. We kind of miss these guys a little bit. So
yes, so let's give a little more love to everybody over on Kick. So, with that being said, Mike, I'm going to open up the floor to you. Give me some last words, brother.
Last words is stay safe and be prepared. We're here should anyone need us. Just go to www.CommsConnectUS.com and give us a shout. Thanks. I really appreciate the opportunity, Tooch.
Yeah, anytime, buddy. Listen, you got an open invitation anytime you want to come on the show. Anytime you have something to share, you know me. Come on. Nick, what do you got for us, young man?
Couple of things. One, we're doing a free ham test, as you mentioned, at Fallout. Not going to cost you anything. 10 o'clock Saturday morning, we'll do that. And then, semper paratus, semper gumby, always prepared, always flexible.
100%. Good stuff. Guys, I didn't do it earlier, and Russ has given me the middle finger, but we do have to do this thing. If you're not following us, especially if you caught us on Chris's platforms, if you're not following us on Facebook, Kick, YouTube, X, Instagram, Rumble, please do that. Make the algorithm gods happy and give us a like, thumbs up, share anything we have. But with that being said, guys, thank you very much for being here. We certainly appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to kill the feeds to the socialist platforms and talk to our people over on Kick. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. All right. We're still live. Let's go ahead and kill the other ones, Russ, and go to the other thing. However that happens, I don't know how to do that. Got it?
I think so.
Perfect.
It's not like the old one. I double check. Let's double check up in the top. I have them turned off. Make sure they look turned up on your side.
Right.
I know Guy or Christy is probably over on Facebook, YouTube as well. One of you guys check and make sure we're gone from over there, so we can actually let our hair down, as they would say.
Yeah, we'll wait for it to disappear on our thing here, and then
it's not going to disappear. I don't think it's going to disappear up top.
Okay, let's hold on, guys. Hang tight with us. We need to make sure the commies are off, and let's see what we got here. Let's go over to Facebook real quick.
Yeah, we're running this new program still on YouTube on his TV, according to Christy.
Still showing me live on Facebook.
Huh. Let me try again. All right. Edit channels.
All right. For those of you that are on Kick, here's what we're going to do. Hang tight. For those of you that are on Kick, stay there. We're going to end this stream, and then I'm going to start another one right up.